We've covered a lot of topics here on Yami Noob the past couple of months that encapsulate some of the larger trends happening in motorcycling. Why do bikes keep getting bigger? Why are bikes getting more expensive? What's the deal with ultra high-end limited edition six-figure motorcycles? And while researching these topics, you might start to think that perhaps there's an ulterior motive at play. Something more diabolical, conspiratorial, and hey, it's the 2020s. Conspiracy theories are in. So put on your tinfoil hat and let's talk about some motorcycle conspiracy theories. Let's start off pretty surface level and discuss the break-in myths. Engine break-in has been hotly debated for decades at this point. I'm sure many of you motorcycle enthusiasts out there in the comments right now have spent many a late night on a forum post from 2006 where some guys are talking about your specific model's engine break-in specifications. Now, there's no debate that engine break-in does exist to some extent. Piston rings do need to bed in with the cylinder walls and all of that, and metallurgy and expanding metals and all that sort of stuff. But the severity of motorcycle engine break-in is often a little inflated. Most manufacturers put some sort of vague thing inside the manual suggesting that in the first 500 or 600 miles you should avoid hard acceleration, hard braking, and extremely fast riding. Kind of the whole point of motorcycles, isn't it? Some high-performance sport bikes like a BMW S1000RR even come with RPM limiters built into the software. For the first 600 miles, you can't rev it past a certain point. Now, plenty of tests have been conducted to suggest that gentle break-in versus hard break-in has pretty negligible effects on modern motorcycle engines. I think in order to cause actual lasting damage to a brand new engine, you'd have to basically ping it off the limiter for the first 600 miles every single time you ride it, or go wide open throttle for minutes at a time on the highway. These things are built pretty tough. The theory, perhaps a conspiracy theory at this point, is that motorcycle manufacturers have these engine break-in procedures mainly for rider safety, or for lawyers, or for bean counters. Let me explain. If you're riding a brand new motorcycle for the very first time, the manufacturer probably wants you to take it easy, less so for the engine, but more so that you avoid the whole eating yourself into the sun effect. Especially here in America, they think, well, any 18-year-old with $500 down can go buy an S1000RR if he has someone dumb enough to co-sign the loan, so why don't we make it so he can't rev past 7,000 RPM for the first 500 miles? That seems pretty safe to me. There's also factory fresh components they need to break in, like the pads and the tires and some other components on the bike. So many people, and myself to an extent included, think that engine break-in procedures are really more of a CYA, that's cover your ass, for motorcycle manufacturers rather than for engine safety. As long as you fire the bike up and ride it in a normal way, that's all you gotta do for the first 600 miles. You don't have to overthink it too much. Now, a lot of older riders also think that long service intervals are a manufacturer conspiracy as well. Now, this is a good time for me to mention that I don't exactly believe all of these conspiracy theories in this video. I'm just playing devil's advocate and showing you some of the stuff that people believe out there. So some older riders think that if a motorcycle manufacturer's manual says that you should change the oil every 6,000 or 8,000 miles, they're still going to do it every 2,500 miles to cover their own butts. The thinking is that the bean counters and engineers over at the manufacturer level put the service intervals at 6,000 or 8,000 miles to add extra wear or tear on the engine so that you have to service it more. And so if you service it more frequently, you won't have to incur costly bills down the road. And this also kind of coincides with the conspiracy theory that manufacturers don't really care what happens to the motorcycle after the warranty period, and they all design them to break after that point. So do OEs claim super long service intervals just so they can then turn around and screw you for a costly engine replacement after the warranty goes out? I don't know. I mean, the KTM cheese cam story is still fresh in our minds, but there's also plenty of old dual sport savants with 120,000 miles on their DR650s who change the oil every 20,000 miles with pasteurized milk, so who the hell knows at this point? Personally, I think if you buy a reputable brand and just follow their service intervals, you should be just fine. You really don't need to change the oil every 2,500 miles unless you're abusing the motorcycle on track or off-road. Now, this next conspiracy theory about tires is one that we have heard a lot here on the channel, and to be honest, there might be some truth in this. When you buy a brand new motorcycle from the dealership, there's this understanding that the OEM tires equipped to the vehicle tend to wear out a little bit faster than aftermarket ones, even of the same brand and make. There's this idea that when you buy a motorcycle straight off the showroom floor, the OE tires that are equipped might say, for example, that they're Bridgestone S22s or 23s, which is a pretty high-spec tire, but they're actually not the same as the tires you would buy off the shelf when you go to replace them. The thinking behind this conspiracy theory is that the OE has to supply the tires on all these motorcycles, and in order to cut costs, they have super cheapo tires that the tire manufacturer built on a Friday, so to speak. And that way they can butter their palms on both ends of the deal. People have often stated that OE tires have significantly less tread depth than actual aftermarket tires, and that the grip just isn't quite there compared to the same make and model tire. Now, I will say a fresh set of amazing tires is one of the best things you can do for your motorcycle, and very few bikes come equipped with high quality tires in the first place, so I always say swap out your OE tires in general, unless they are that high spec stuff. Some super sporty models come with Pirelli Supercorsa SPs or Bridgestone S22s like I mentioned, but a lot of mid-spec and low-grade Japanese bikes come with the sort of no-name Dunlops or weirdo tires that you would never normally put on those bikes. Ever since ABS debuted on BMW models back in the 80s and then traction control followed decades later with Ducati, riders have often had conspiracy theories about both of these technologies. One of the conspiracy theories we hear a lot about this is that manufacturers don't really care about safety, they're just trying to find ways to charge you more for a motorcycle. More safety, more tech, more features, higher price. Easy enough. The thing is, ABS and traction control are kind of necessary on our super high-powered motorcycles nowadays, particularly when you look at the flagship categories of motorcycles making well over 200 horsepower. You really need electronics to tame all of that. Hell, it wasn't that long ago that superbikes making 190 horsepower with no traction control and no ABS were bikes that professional riders would use. And even legends like Ben Spies are on record saying that those things were barely usable at those power levels. Some riders take it even further and suggest that there's a conspiracy theory between safety features and insurance companies so that riders don't crash as much and insurance payouts are fewer. To me, that sounds like a win-win, but maybe you don't think so because the insurance company would then keep more of its money.
Triumph calls this color Cosmic Yellow on the Street Triple 765 RS, and I'd like to think it's cosmic because when you find out that you've won this motorcycle on YamiNoob.co, you're going to ascend to the heavens and be in a heaven-like cosmic state of existence as this thing wheels itself into your driveway because you won it on YamiNoob.co. Become a member on the website, get your chances locked and loaded, you'll join our Discord, get access to the newsletter. But if that doesn't sound appealing, pick up a hat, a t-shirt, a hoodie. We sell all kinds of great stuff on the website. Every dollar you spend will not only support the show, but will also get you entered to win, subject to an amazing multiplier. Get entered to win this bike. Don't sleep on it.
Now, speaking of insurance, the next conspiracy theory is, of course, about our absolute worst frenemy in the motorcycle industry, insurance. It's lovely when you need it, but we all hate paying for it. Have you ever been cross-shopping for insurance quotes between different companies for the same bike, and then you get hit with an absolutely absurd quote from one of the companies you're looking at? That's because they don't want to cover you. In the biz, they call it an FU quote. Maybe you own a business and you've gotten an invoice before or a projected estimate on something that was just an insanely high cost, so much so that you just turn around and say, well, F you, I don't want to work with you. That's exactly what the insurance company is doing. Imagine someone quoting you $5,000 a year on a $7,000 motorcycle. Yeah, doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? But the thing is, due to your age, your location, your driving record, your credit score, your marital status, and even your home ownership status, insurance companies can hike up giant quotes for you, knowing that you're just simply not going to take it because they don't want to cover you. But of course, if you do, they're more than happy to take your money. That one may not actually be a conspiracy theory. I think that's just straight up true. All right, this next one is about sport bikes, and it's one that a lot of you have mentioned in the comments section. They say that there's declining interest in sport bikes. The R1, the R6, the GSXR, they're all going extinct in Europe. OEMs claim that people just don't want these bikes anymore, so they refuse to develop them or change them up or make them Euro 5 Plus compliant. But have you looked around lately? Everybody loves sport bikes still. Bike nights, group rides, TikTok reels, Instagram clips, people on Facebook Marketplace charging 50% more for their R6s, people often telling me that the R6 is better than the R9. I mean, love of sport bikes is definitely still there. So what's really going on and what is this conspiracy? The conspiracy that we hear a lot online is that it's not that people don't care about sport bikes, it's just that OEMs aren't willing to pony up the R&D cost on these older models to make them Euro 5 Plus compliant and then charge what they actually need to be charged in order to continue making them. You know, we look at the GSX-R 750 as a weird time capsule from a different time, but the reason it's so inexpensive is because it was grandfathered in for emissions, isn't sold in Europe anymore, and if it was actually to become compliant for Euro 5 Plus, it would cost them a bunch of money that they would pass on to you. A key example in this is what happened to the MT-09 over the last 5 years. The engine went from 847 to 890. They made a ton of changes to the catalytic converter, and they have to keep making changes to the catalytic converter, adding air intake scoops so that the whole thing sounds better. There's a lot of R&D work that goes into making a motorcycle compliant for Euro 5 Plus emissions on an updated model. So OEs are probably better off not spending that money and just continuing to sell the old models and then say, well, people don't really care about sport bikes, so we're not going to update it. And to be honest, this kind of bears out when you think about it because they cross-platform a naked bike that's already met Euro 5 Plus emissions, and then they just sell it as a sport bike because they know that people actually do want to buy sport bikes. I mean, look at the interest in the new Panigale V2 or the CF Moto 675 SS or, God, the R9, which we're all patiently waiting for here in North America to release. By the way, I do have a deposit on that motorcycle and I will be getting it as soon as I possibly can. The moment the dealership tells me it's available, I'm writing a check and picking it up. Well, speaking of brand new models, another conspiracy theory is, of course, about planned obsolescence. This is something we've seen a lot in the tech world, and because motorcycles are coming with more and more technology, it may be coming to the two-wheeled world too. A lot of conspiratorially minded motorcyclists may say that all these added features on motorcycles are simply to make it so that the manufacturer can brick it in the future. I mean, think about it. China blows up 15-year-old motorcycles, so what's to stop the manufacturer from simply turning off your keyless ignition subscription fee so that you can't ride the bike anymore? Nothing really. There was actually a case recently where somebody bought a Fisker car, that old electric car that was made several years ago, and it couldn't connect to the internet anymore, and so that it couldn't actually turn on because the company went bankrupt and the servers were no longer active, so it couldn't connect to the internet, and then the car wouldn't turn on. So this actually does happen in the automotive space, and furthermore, I do think it will come to motorcycling in the future, but that's just my little conspiracy tinfoil hat being put on there. I mean, we've seen weird stuff like that in cars too, where like I think the Ford F-150 Lightning, somebody had a case where they needed to go somewhere with the truck and then it was doing a software update and then couldn't be moved. I mean, this stuff does happen with these things that are basically computers on wheels. And as bikes become more technologically advanced, require proprietary systems or specialized tools to repair and maintain, this fear of planned obsolescence will only grow. And honestly, that's not even mentioning the fact that the longevity of this tech isn't really proven yet. Older bikes that are simpler and more mechanically pure, in theory, can run forever if you have replacement mechanical parts, but things that run on technology and software may not have that same effect. There's really no way of knowing how a motorcycle with keyless ignition, adaptive suspension, radar cruise control, TFT displays, 6-axis IMUs, how it's really going to work 20 years from now. And that kind of plays into the fact that a lot of consumer goods are designed to be disposable nowadays, which really makes the analog old school motorcycles that can be repaired all the more valuable in my opinion. And again, if you need subscriptions to keep certain features on your motorcycle active and ready, what's to stop them from stop working when the servers turn off? So that one may be the most true conspiracy theory out of all in this video today. All right, so what do you guys think about these conspiracies in today's video? Is there a secret coalition of motorcycle industry insiders just trying to extort more motorcycle riders out of their money? Was the Harley-Davidson Bronx actually ever going to be built, or was it just a complicated psyop to get us talking about them? Was the Harley-Davidson woke mind virus real or just a red herring? Let me know any motorcycle conspiracy theories you have or weird hot takes. I love this kind of conversation here on the channel. It's a lot of fun to do. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. I truly do appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.
Boys, it's really sad that this video is now over, but you know what's not sad? Winning a free motorcycle, and that's what this Triumph Street Triple 765 RS is designed to do. You know, nobody gives away bikes like your sweet Papa Yam. Nobody's doing Triumph Street Triples and Panigales and all the latest and greatest stuff. If you want access to win, become a member on yamnoob.co and don't miss your chance.